When Nintendo first unveiled the Wii, I think a lot of people had dreams of a future where we would just get fit playing video games, almost by accident. Visions ran through their heads about playing Zelda or another action-adventure game while having so much fun you wouldn't even notice yourself becoming more healthy. Of course, as you know now, the reality of the limitations of the Wii came crashing into that dream, and slowly everyone realized that the Wii lacked the depth of control and feedback necessary to achieve what they wanted. Other technologies have come and gone, with reality failing to meet the great expectations generated, and while the fitness genre has stuck around and does well, for a while it felt like nothing could live up to that impossible standard. Enter virtual reality, with more precision and feedback than anything that came before it, and there's a healthy sector of VR fitness games which have found some degrees of success, as well as some games, while primarily designed as a game first, just so happen to provide a decent workout as a side effect. Now, on this particular video, I don't want to explore whether or not a VR game can be used as a workout. Other channels have covered that in depth. Instead, I want to explore what is the ideal form a VR fitness game could take. So far, the most popular answer to that question has been rhythm games, which is understandable. The main design goals of a fitness game align with a rhythm game, which needs to repeat a lot of motions for your workout, be approachable at multiple fitness and game experience levels, which can increase over time, encourage a daily routine, and be accessible to as wide an audience as possible. While I don't want to deny that this formula works, and has provided us with some interesting games already, I believe there is an untapped genre whose strengths could push fitness games to new heights. To bring us a little closer to that original vision the public had, that we will be able to get fit and stay healthy easily just playing video games. In my personal opinion, that genre is the roguelike. For those of you unfamiliar with the genre, a roguelike is a type of game with randomized elements and upgrades which change from run to run, roughly based on the game on the 80s called Rogue. It's a genre that encourages you to slowly master the game's mechanics while playing the game over and over again, in order to have a complete run where you beat the entire game in one sitting. As a result, roguelikes often have short play sessions where you try to get as far into the game as possible in one session, rather than a few long play sessions where you try to experience as much of the game's story as possible. To demonstrate this genre's potential, I'd like to look at one of those games who found itself in the fitness genre almost by accident.
Wake up, champion. Our city lies in ruin. In its place, monsters and twisted spirits now thrive. I have restored you as best I can. Together, we can stop this madness. Defend yourself.
Until You Fall is a roguelike VR hack and slash game which is included in the Steam VR Fitness Bundle. The basics are that you need to physically block attacks indicated with the blue markers on screen while mixing in your own attacks to break the enemy's guard, allowing you to damage their health by slashing the orange indicators. The game slowly introduces other elements such as massive attacks indicated by an arrow which you have to physically dodge and crouch to avoid. I would describe the physical act of playing it at a mid to high level as sprinting with your arms while mixing in squats while fighting certain enemies. It shows off a few strengths of the genre, which could be potentially brought into a game that's trying to gamify fitness. Until You Fall has a couple small systems to offset repetition, which is a problem any fitness game is going to run into when you try to include it in your fitness routine. While rooms seem to have preset enemies, you do get a random selection of rooms every time you do a run. You get a choice of 3 random upgrades at the end of each room. This changes up each run as different upgrades can affect how you approach a run. Maybe you can focus on a single kill combo or upgrading your special attacks. There's also multiple weapon types you slowly unlock playing the game that offer unique gameplay challenges such as not getting hit, alternating your left and right attacks as much as you can, and in one extreme case, being forced to dodge attacks and use punches instead of sword attacks. This is important because you will be fighting the same types of enemies over and over again if you're trying to push to the end of the game. And this variety has applications beyond just gameplay. One design problem that any fitness game runs into is different players have different levels of physical endurance and overall game skill. One thing I noticed in Until You Fall is depending on what weapon you choose, how much of a workout you get changes. While it's not in the core design, it's definitely something that could be expanded upon in another game. Now, the biggest reason I feel roguelikes have a lot of potential as a fitness-focused game is their ability to push you harder. Every roguelike is built on the premise of pushing further into the zone, into a new area, to beat that one boss you failed on a few times already. Now, it could be argued that the main job of hiring a personal fitness trainer is not necessarily their expertise, though that's obviously a huge part of it. The reason people hire them is to provide motivation, especially to push harder during the tough part of a workout. Roguelikes have refined providing motivation to a fine edge. When you're fighting a boss and you finally get into a new phase, the boss changes, the entire landscape shifts, and of course, the phase 2 boss music kicks in. In that moment, you're not thinking about how tired you are, how many times this boss has forced you to crouch, or even how long you've been playing. You're entirely focused on succeeding. That rare achievement of flow is something fitness games should be chasing. In Until You Fall, I personally pushed myself to do 3 full 30-minute runs one night when I normally just do 2 because I was so close to finally beating the final boss I had to go again. And I narrowly succeeded that night. At the end of the day, I don't think the greatest fitness game of all time will require many of the bells and whistles that the genre attracts, with calorie counts, squat counts, and talking heads that tell you how great you're doing. It will just be a video game that understands how to utilize the medium strengths of motivation, variety, and challenge while still addressing the issues of accessibility to a wider audience and providing enough information to the player about how their choices affect the workout they receive. Also, while Until You Fall is an excellent showcase for the potential of a roguelike fitness game, it's not quite the ideal one yet. The biggest obstacle is that when you're learning the game, it's not that hard of a workout.
They stand no chance.
There's a lot to learn before you get the flow of combat. I still think it's underrated as a game, even though I wish there were more than 5 enemy types. Okay, 10 if you count the empowered versions you encounter later in the game that use the same models. However, it still is, I feel, the closest to that impossible fever dream of a game that provides you with a workout while being an excellent video game with a masterful combat system. Or I could just feel roguelikes are better because I suck at rhythm games. There is a distinct possibility that's true too.